Okay, you start.
What do you mean?
I don't know, I can't do intros. I'm not good at that, so you start.
But you do them anyway. It's inspirational. She can't do intros, but she tries.
No! What I do is I take a random part from the middle of a podcast and put it in the beginning to the music, and that's the intro.
Well, I think this qualifies as a random part.
But it's not from the middle.
No, it is. We've been recording for 41 and a half minutes.
No, this is gonna be a new podcast, so it doesn't count. It's like 0.
Okay, it's a reboot.
Yes, it's a reboot. So ever since I first played Bloodborne, Vicar Amelia has been one of those mystifying characters to me because there is not much lore around her.
Correct.
And so I think it would be cool if I could ask you a few questions about her.
Okay, let's talk about Vicar Amelia.
Is it pronounced Vicar or Vicar?
It's Vicar.
Why is there an I though?
Because that's how the word is spelled.
Why didn't they just put like 2 E's or something?
It's Vicar.
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 Maybe like a Russian E, which is a backward N, that would clarify
well,
things.
we can't all use the superior Cyrillic alphabet.
Okay. Oh, do you want to do this podcast in Russian? Have you been practicing?
Maybe next time. I'm still a bit rusty.
Okay. Okay. So I sent you a document with a couple of questions.
Right.
Okay. So, could you tell me what Vicar means in the real world and in Bloodborne, and how the two are similar or different?
Yeah, this is the source of a lot of confusion, because of the way Bloodborne kind of uses religious language and iconography to mean things that those exact words don't mean when applied to a real-world context. So, like, the vicar of the healing church is the head of the entire healing church, which is confusing because in real life, the vicar is just the head of, like, the local parish church. It's the head of a very small group. They're, like, subordinate to the bishops and cardinals and etc. The reason they use vicar in Bloodborne is because the healing church, even though it's drawing really heavily on Roman Catholic iconography, isn't the Roman Catholic Church. It's not a huge organization spanning the globe. It is just one little group of people. So they've used the word vicar because the healing church, the entire of that church is just Yana. So using a word that means like the head of a local parish is descriptive insofar as characters like Amelia and Lawrence are concerned because their authority is just Yana. But it became confusing because you have, like, well, the head of the healing church is the vicar. Surely that should be the, like, Lawrence should be like Archbishop Lawrence or possibly Pope Lawrence if you're viewing him as the head of that church. But they've gone with vicar because the healing church is small, basically. The Japanese title they have is more like, it's like parish leader. So they're like parish leader Amelia and Lawrence the first parish leader. So that's why they use vicar.
Cool, thank you. Speaking of Lawrence, what do you think her relationship with Lawrence was, if any?
She is the successor to Lawrence. We don't know how many people came in between Lawrence and her. It's possible that there's the white church doctor in The Hunter's Nightmare who repeats Amelia's prayer, kind of. So she might have been a vicar in between Lawrence and Amelia. So we'll say there've been at least 3. There was Lawrence, then the unnamed white church doctor, and then Amelia. At least, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there are theories out there saying that church doctor from the DLC is actually Vicar Amelia.
I don't think it is.
Why not?
Okay, the reason people think it's Amelia is because she says Amelia's prayer. It's literally the same recording. The difference is that it is it is not literally the same prayer. They cut bits of it out. So all the stuff about seek the old blood. The Amelia's prayer, it has a line about seek the old blood. We shall feast upon the old blood. That part's missing in the Hunter's Nightmare. And it's also played slower. So, like, not only is the prayer slower, but her voice sounds different. So I think those two things together are them explicitly saying this isn't Amelia. It's someone else. It's someone who is in between Lawrence and Amelia.
And when SanaDSK was on our podcast, he also looked at her file name or something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Amelia, right?
Yeah. But I don't even know if Amelia, like, as a human, has a file name at all.
Okay.
Because she is Amelia, as you meet her in the Grand Cathedral, she's just a bell maiden that they've given a white cloak to instead of a black one. That's the only difference. That's why you never see her from the front, because she would have a horrible bell maiden melty face. The reason that they did that is because she is a replacement for another character, so she was sort of hacked together from assets that already existed. And her character, the beast form of her is called Saint Laura, internally. So, yeah. I don't think she's ever called Amelia, like, internally ever referred to as Amelia. So, we don't know.
And the other character in the Hunter's Nightmare she was not called Laura.
Yeah,
either.
yeah. Well, we don't know what the story with Saint Laura is at all. She's just an early character that was abandoned and recycled into Amelia. Although, I mean, we'll get to it later on, but...
Yeah, and like when you first brought it up, I was like, Lawrence,
Yeah, and I hadn't thought of that. And I was like, oh yeah, Lawrence, Laura. Maybe...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my horsefish brain is like tingling, you know?
Yeah.
You mentioned that Amelia is like a stand-in, like a last-minute thing for
well,
another
I don't know
character.
to what degree she was like last minute, but it would have been like after they had designed all the assets. So like she doesn't have unique assets. She is originally you would have been told to go to the Grand Cathedral and meet a character called Father Norbert, who is confusingly also called Father Herbert, depending on which version of the script you look at. So you get told to go to the Grand Cathedral, and then when you got there, you would be attacked by the cleric beast, who would not have been on the bridge. The reason the cleric beast appears from by jumping on the bridge is because originally the cleric beast would have jumped from the top balcony of the Grand Cathedral. So the cleric beast would have jumped down from the Grand Cathedral, and you would have fought inside there. And then when you killed the cleric beast would have dropped the Blood-Borne equivalent of boss souls, which were later removed, which were called living livers, and you would have got living liver of Father Norbert, and that would have been the reveal that the cleric beast was Father Norbert. And then, after they kind of did musical chairs with the bosses a fair bit from looking at the cut content, but the end result was that cleric beast ended up on the bridge, so there was no boss for the Grand Cathedral, so they moved this character who was previously called Saint Laura. We don't know anything about her. She would have been... she was a separate character, and they moved her to the Grand Cathedral. And they added the cutscene of Vicar Amelia transforming into her, but that cutscene is done with a Bell Maiden model. So, yeah, she's just sort of made of assets that were originally designed for something else, and they hacked them together to make this Vicar Amelia character.
Okay, thank you. And if anybody wants to know more about cut content in general, or even this cut content specifically, you can check out SanaDSK and Lance's channels, which have all the stuff we're talking about on them.
Yeah, you can also go to the Bloodborne wiki. And,
or
both
the Bloodborne wiki.
Lance's channel and the Bloodborne wiki both have the unused Cleric Beast appearance video in them, where the Cleric Beast would have jumped from the balcony of the Grand Cathedral and landed behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Sana has the Bell Maiden faced Amelia.
Yeah.
Super.
Okay. But I have something else to say about Saint Laura.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah,
The plot
because
thickens.
we don't know anything about Saint Laura except that you can see her in the very, very early Project Beast trailers.
Really? Where is she?
She's in the Witch of Hemwick's room. And
Oh.
the difference is, like, it's exactly the same model, but she has the robe over the face is black instead of white, because back then, I guess, it wasn't Vicar Amelia, so they just changed the robe texture. But she still has Lawrence's pendant in her hand.
Interesting.
As far back as Project Beast, like, she still had the pendant, it wasn't added later on. So, the Lawrence Laura thing, there may have been more to it. Like, she may still have been Lawrence's successor, but she may not have been called Vicar Amelia. She may have... Like, this Saint Laura character looks like she was the successor to Lawrence in some way, because she does have the pendant still.
So then it wouldn't have been in the very, very beginning of the game, because then Lawrence was our friend in the very beginning that comes to Yharnam with us or something?
Yeah. Like, for all we know, Saint Laura was the head of the Healing Church at that point. Like, we don't... Because... And then we've got, like, at that point, it looks like that in the version where Lawrence is your friend, it looks like the head of the Healing Church is called Mikolash. Like, they played around with all these different... Everyone's name ended up used for, like, 2 different characters, at least, so it becomes very difficult to tell. Like, when you see a reference to Mikolash in the files, we don't know if it's the Mikolash that we fight or the Mikolash who was head of the Healing Church.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thank you. And in terms of the finished game, is Vicar Amelia the last Vicar?
Yeah, because the Healing Church is destroyed by the end of the game, so she was the last Vicar. That's why that's why you fight Lawrence as the first Vicar, because it's like the first and the last.
Oh, I haven't thought of that. Huh, that's cool. And she transforms into a huge beast.
She do.
And and Miyazaki mentioned that people who try to repress their beasthood the most or whatever make the most atrocious beasts.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Well, the way he described it is like, you start transforming, and then if you just, like, let it go, you become like the people in Yharnam, where they're just sort of, like, hairy and have, like, asymmetrical limbs and stuff. But if you try to repress it, the more you repress it, when it finally comes out, it's more violent. It's like you've been holding it in for so long, and then suddenly it's like... So that's why the clerics of the Healing Church will become the huge, huge beasts. And it specifically says that in the DLC in a few places. It's like the reason why the first really, really huge beasts were transformed clerics. Prior to that, it had just been the little like old Yharnam beast patients. And then what happened was, because the clerics were working so hard to contain the beast within, basically, that when they transformed, it was much more violent. And that's why, also that's where Ludwig comes from, because when they were dealing with the little old Yharnam-y beastie things, then they started having to deal with creatures like Lawrence and Amelia and Ludwig, but Ludwig wasn't Ludwig yet. They needed to change their approach, so that's why Ludwig's Church Hunters are created, because they use very, very large, heavy weapons. That's why you have, like, the Kirk Hammer and Ludwig's Holy Blade, and Ludwig's Rifle, because they're specifically designed to hunt really, really huge things. Whereas prior to that, it's all like the Saw Cleaver and the Threaded Cane, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And another thing I'm not good at is locations.
Okay.
So, what is the name of the church where Amelia is located?
The Grand Cathedral.
And what is she doing there?
She's praying to Lawrence's skull.
Why?
Okay, I don't know. This is really confusing, because... Right. The reason the Healing Church... The Healing Church have to dig that hole in the back of Yosefka's clinic in order to get to Forbidden Woods. Because they can't get through the door that's guarded by the Watchman from Bergenworth. The password that the Watchman is using is in Lawrence's memory. And there is a note, literally in the foyer of the Grand Cathedral, that says, "Heir to the ritual of ministration, place your hand upon Master Lawrence's skull to learn the adage." So, I don't know why she doesn't know the adage. Like, if Lawrence's skull is right there, why the Healing Church apparently don't know the adage, even though it's literally written there, like, here's how to learn it. Like, it's not very logical. The reason she's praying to Lawrence is presumably because everything is going to shit, and she's trying to, like, stay in control, I guess. Like, hoping Lawrence guides her in some way. But it's weird that, like, the adage that she speaks is the opposite of Lawrence's adage. Because she's saying, like, seek the old blood, feast upon the old blood, and Lawrence's adage is, of course, fear the old blood. So, I don't quite understand the rationale behind what's happening there. And I think it may just be a victim of cut content. They may have, we know, like, it's confirmed, because there's literally screenshots of it, that there wouldn't have been a beast skull on the altar, it would have been a human skull. And the beast skull, it looks like, was underground somewhere. So I think this may be like an orphaned plot line where you would go to the Grand Cathedral, you would see a human skull that was referred to as Lawrence's skull. You would touch it, you wouldn't learn anything, maybe? And then you would realize that underneath the Grand Cathedral, I guess where Ebrietas is now, would have been the real Lawrence's skull, which would have been the beast. And that would have maybe had the Bergenworth adage in it or something, I don't know. But yeah, she's just praying to Lawrence in, I guess, like, seeking his guidance or something, because the Healing Church isn't doing very well.
No.
Another thing that's not terribly well communicated, but is that, like, the reason the Healing Church are blocked off like that is because the Yarnamites are attacking them. Like, the Yarnamites are going into Cathedral Ward to attack the Healing Church. So that's why they're all sealed off like they are. So, like, she's in a really desperate situation.
So it would make sense that she's praying. Maybe she is realizing that her time is coming, so maybe it's more like a goodbye prayer.
No, she may be, like, hoping to contact the Great Ones or something in, like, a last-ditch effort. Because she knows she hasn't got much time. Mm-hmm. So she's just sort of, kind of like Yosefka, when you meet Yosefka, and she's imposter Yosefka, and she's, like, on writhing round, trying to contact with the third chord.
Why didn't Amelia... Yeah, go ahead.
The Healing Church have gone to shit, basically, so Amelia is desperately... She's just, out of desperation, I guess, looking to Lawrence for guidance.
Why didn't she go somewhere else, though? Maybe somewhere safe, like the Odin Chapel?
Well, Cathedral Ward is pretty safe. Like, it's basically in siege mode.
Okay, why didn't she leave town?
How do you leave town?
Why didn't she go to Castle Kinehurst?
Well, she doesn't have an invitation.
Yeah, she's pretty much stuck, huh?
Yeah. Like, I imagine if she tried leaving, she'd just be killed by a mob as soon as she left Cathedral Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why didn't she stay at that other place?
Where?
Where we make contact.
With the Nightmare of Mensis.
No. Yeah, why didn't she chill with Mikalesh instead? No, where we find make contact.
Oh, in Upper Cathedral Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another kind of confusing part, because she's described as the head of the healing church. But then you also get references to Mensis and the choir, as though they are like they're the upper part of the healing church. So, like, I don't really know. I don't know if they're independent from her or not. Because the healing church are all trying to, like, fuck each other over constantly throughout the game.
How so?
Because Mensis and the choir are trying to kill each other. The way it works is there's the healing church. Then Mensis are a weird faction of the healing church, who I think the rest of the healing church may not actually know that much about. It's like Mikolash's weird splinter group, who go and hide in Yahogul. And you'll note that, like, they kidnap... There's all these dead healing church people in Yahogul. They have kidnapped Adela. Adela does not know what is going on, even though she's a nun and she's a blood saint. And they have a choir member who has been presumably tortured to death in one of the prison cells. So, Mensis are antagonistic toward the rest of the healing church. The choir know about Mensis because they're fighting each other, but then you have Adela, who seemingly doesn't know what's going on with Mensis, which implies that the healing church, like the mainstream part of the healing church, don't know about Mensis, but the choir do. And then you have the choir, who are... The way it's explained is that when the healing church set up, the healing church kind of rescued a bunch of orphans, and they raised them to be these, like, child geniuses. Like, they sort of, like, put them through this accelerated, really intensive, like, learning program to try to create the new generation of, make their own Bergenworth, basically. Create their own generation of, like, really enlightened scholars who would lead Yharnam and lead the church in the future. And they're supposed to be, like, the upper part of the healing church. But we don't know if, like, we don't know what, if they're just, like, if they have authority or not. Like, we don't know, they don't, I don't know if they operate independently from the rest of the church or not. And I don't know what connection they have to Amelia.
Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to ask you about the gold pendant. Would you mind reading the description of the gold pendant?
Pendant of Vicar Amelia, used to change into a blood gem which fortifies weapons. The pendant, passed down among the vicars who head the healing church, is a reminder of the cautionary adage. To reveal the adage, touch the altar skull.
When Vicar Amelia holds the pendant, does she have all this information?
This is the confusing thing I was talking about before, because if there is literally a note in the Grand Cathedral that says to learn the adage, touch the skull. So, I don't know why the church can't go through the door to Forbidden Woods if they know that you just touch the skull and learn the adage.
What if she did? And what if she's just choosing not to go?
Maybe. It may actually be that the church very intentionally aren't going to Forbidden Woods. Because they view themselves as, like, Bergenworth, even if you can get there, you shouldn't go there. And only the choir do it, and that's why they use that secret passage.
Mm-hmm. And so the pendant, somebody was able to, like, open it up and see inside it.
Yeah, that was Laura/AstralLace.
Cool. And inside, there's, like, writing. Have we figured out what it says yet?
No. We have no idea. We don't know, and the fact that it's inside the pendant where you would never see it makes us think it may just be like an in-joke from one of the designers. It's not like an uncommon thing.
My mind was blown for the first time in Dark Souls when I think it's It's a YouTuber. I think his name is Crestfallen Warrior.
Yeah.
And he had a video where, you know how a lot of the NPCs wear helmets so you never see their face?
Oh, yeah, you
Well,
clicked inside.
yeah, and there's
Yeah.
actually a face, and
Yeah.
every face is like detailed and different. And
Yep.
it's like they made different detailed faces for every character, knowing that we will never see them.
Yep.
I find that absolutely fascinating.
It's true
I
of
kind of love
Bloodborne too.
it. Did you say Bloodborne too?
I said Bloodborne, comma, TOO.
Yeah.
Someone, we don't know exactly how they did it because it's on a Japanese blog, but someone figured out a glitch that you can perform that makes NPCs appear without any clothing on. Like, their clothing doesn't load.
Lol.
No, so we were finally able to see what Eileen looks like under the mask, because you can't normally.
I always picture her as just like the mask. Like that's what she looks like.
Well, the thing is, like, there are some characters like Antal, where you can just kind of nudge the camera through their head and see what they look like under the helmet. But Eileen's mask like that, if you put that on, that replaces your head. Your head isn't rendered under it.
So I'm not wrong.
Yeah. So we never had a good look at what Eileen looked like under the mask.
Uh-huh.
Because if you clipped the camera through that, you just saw nothing, because her head just wasn't rendered. So now we actually have an image of what Eileen looks like under the mask.
And?
She just looks like an old lady.
Oh, awesome! Just like we thought.
She has no hair as well.
Like Gascoigne.
Yeah. Oh god, that's going to be fun. And Maria.
What?
Maria has no hair.
Maria?
Maria's bald.
Maria has hair. That's because Ludwig played a prank on her this one time and shaved it all off when she fell asleep in her chair.
It's getting deeper and deeper.
We'll talk, but we have to talk about this whole bald situation in another podcast for Jeremy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I go for like 5 minutes?
Okay.
Okay, I'll just leave it recording.
Okay.
Okay. I'll be back soon.
Okay. I think Richie went to shave his head.
Okay, I'm back.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello. Hi.
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 So we were talking about the pendant. So you can get a blood gem for the pendant.
Yes.
Is that lore significant?
It does extra damage to beasts, and it has its own description.
Would you mind reading its description?
I will find it.
It's underneath the pendant, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, I already looked it up.
I came prepared, Richie.
Yeah, it says when clerics began transforming into unspeakable beasts, the church needed something to retaliate with. So that's why they have this, like, I think it's like a last resort. Like, if someone turns into a beast, there is a gem that does extra damage to beasts in the pendant.
Mm-hmm.
The pendant itself it looks like it was more important initially. Yeah, you know that painting in Canehurst that I keep saying is Lawrence?
Yeah.
He has the wheel badge, not the wheel hunter badge, the wheel badge that all the Healing Church people, the church servants wear. And then he's got this other pendant under it. I think that is supposed to be Lawrence's pendant. The thing, like, and people will say, well, it's the wrong size and the wrong shape. And I'm like, I know. But I think it is supposed to be the same pendant, because if you look at what Amelia's holding, it's enormous. And the reason it's enormous is because she is an enormous beast. So if she were holding a pendant designed for a person, you couldn't see it. Because if you look at that pendant and then you try to imagine a human wearing it, it would be like Flavor Flav's giant clock. Like, it would look ridiculous.
When she's a human and she's holding it, do we see it at all?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it changes size.
Okay.
Because, like, as a beast, she has huge hands, and you can still see the pendant in them. So, like...
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that is the same pendant. That picture in Cainhurst is meant to be Lawrence wearing the gold pendant. And just as a result of, like, designs being changed and swapped around, it doesn't quite match anymore.
Okay.
Because we know that was the Healing Church's uniform, and they changed it.
You mean the Lawrence picture?
Yeah, like that picture in Cainhurst, like, he's wearing what the Healing Church used to wear in an earlier version of the game, and they changed that. So it's possible the pendant was also... And, like, in the DLC as well, you have the eye pendant. You have Lawrence holding a pendant.
Lawrence meaning one of the statues?
Lawrence the first Vicar. Lawrence the first Vicar, like, when you go into the cathedral. He's holding the eye pendant. Yeah.
You mean the Beast Lawrence?
The Beast Lawrence. He's holding He's holding a pendant. And then you use that pendant to activate something on the altar. So I'm wondering if, like, that is a reused idea. That you, like, there was going to be more to Lawrence's pendant, that maybe you would get the pendant from Saint Laura or whoever Amelia was, and then you would use that to activate a lift or something in the actual cathedral. Yeah.
So instead of having, like, a pendant on the painting, Amelia having a pendant, and Lawrence having a pendant, it could have been, like, one and the same.
I think that's the idea. It's the same pendant, and then it sort of got lost in the, like, dozens and dozens of story iterations they did. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. We already talked about Amelia's prayer.
Yeah.
But you have something else to say about it.
So the thing about Amelia's prayer is that the woman in the nightmare, who is, possibly the vicar in between Lawrence and Amelia, she says this prayer, but she is... the first half of it is missing. So when she's saying, seek the old blood, feast upon the old blood, our thirst for blood satiates us, that's cut out. So she just says... beware the frailty of men, their wills are weak, minds young, and talks about, like, it's basically just the second half. So the first half is removed, so, like, at that point in the Healing Church's history, if we assume that the nightmare is, like, bits and pieces of the past, then the part about seeking the old blood, partaking in communion, feasting upon the old blood was added later. So the adage goes from Lawrence's fear the old blood to beware the frailty of men to seek the old blood. So it, like, gradually degrades across time.
So that's interesting, because the impression I got when I was playing Bloodborne is that Willem told Lawrence to fear the old blood, but then Lawrence was like, yeah, sure, whatever, and then made his own church where they kind of ignore that completely. But what you're saying...
Yeah. No, what happens is he says that to Lawrence, and then Lawrence says, no, I won't forget the adage. So even though Lawrence was going against Willem's wishes, he was still keeping the adage in his mind. Mm-hmm. But what happens is that with Lawrence gone, like, it goes with him.
Well, I like that. That gives a little more depth to Lawrence.
Yeah, our favorite character.
Yeah, so he did do his own thing, but he still kept Willem's words, at heart.
Yes.
But then, like you're saying, as he was gone, the church changed. Huh. Cool.
I like how you just got anything else about her that we know, ?
Yeah, that's what I usually ask you at the end of every like podcast, like, anything else you want to add?
She was pretty heavily waifu'd until we found out she was a Bell Maiden, and that's why they only show her from behind.
Is she bald though?
No, because she has a hood. The bald characters all have hats on. If they have a hat that
bald spots.
Yeah, that's literally what's happening. Maria is bald, Gascoigne is bald. The healing church began as a means to cure baldness.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think we pretty much covered her.
Okay, well, as usual, thanks so much, Richie. Really appreciate it.
That's all right. Thank you for asking me on every week.
Every week at the same time.
The same time or earlier.
Or earlier. Oh, God. How did you like the Aegon podcasts?
It was good. It was better than my half.
That's because Aegon is a better person than you in general.
It's true. Well, he is.
By the way, everyone, if you're into Aegon stuff, check out his channel. There's a whole video about Patreon and all that stuff that's really, really cool. So you should, you should check it out. And, consider, supporting him if you have the means. It's really cool. It's really nice. And he does awesome work. You should say something, because I always feel awkward talking about these things.
What do you want me to say? Donate to Aegon's Patreon.
Yes.
Donate to Aegon's Patreon if you have already donated to Sinclair's Patreon and still have money lying around.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, well, thanks, Richie, and I'll see you next time.
Because the three of us are all in academia, and it doesn't pay well at all. I know someone who, they decided they were going to do a PhD looking at different tropical islands, and got the fucking university to fund them traveling to tropical islands. That's a holiday. You got someone to pay for a 3-year vacation to the tropics.
Yeah, sometimes, because, I do work in a lab, so, the whole, when are you going to continue your studies thing pops up.
Yeah.
And it's never? How? First of all, to do that, I would have to quit my job, which I actually love very much and which pays the bills and gives me some sort of independence, move back in with my parents and fucking kill myself. Because even though I love them very much, you know what it's like after a certain age? You just, at least me, I love you guys, they're great people, they're amazing. But I cannot have my parents telling me to stop playing video games and go to sleep at 9 p.m. when I'm in my mid-30s. It's not happening.
Yeah, it should be like me, where you're telling me to go to bed at 9 p.m.
Yes.
So that I'm up early and we can record these.
But that is for your own good, okay?
Richard, go to sleep.
Yes. How do you know that? That's so funny, because I type it, but as I type it, a lot of the times I act out the things I type.
Yeah.
So that's literally what I sound like when I tell you to go to sleep.
Oh, there's more content.
What do you mean?
Cleric Beast.
Yeah.
I like this. Especially question 2. Nothing.
What?
What is a Cleric Beast? We covered that. What is he wearing? Nothing. He's a giant naked werewolf.
Okay, but this is supposed to be a separate podcast.
Well, can't you edit it?